this summer, what do you see as the path to improvement? Continuity or changes?
I mean, I don't want to seem hypocritical, so I guess you never know. If I will give you an inside betting tip that I think continuity is very, very likely. Last summer we didn't make changes because we were really comfortable with where we were, and we'd seen really good things from our team in terms of kind of a good progression, and I think we saw more of the same this year. So I think the bar to make changes is very high.
If you are evaluating potential free agent additions, is timeline and age kind of still a priority now, or because your team is older and more experienced, does that kind of timeline matchup not matter as much?
I mean, we're still a very young team, so yeah, it's definitely still important. We won't, I mean, it's more important how good you are and what you can bring, but we do want we want to be very competitive for as long as we possibly can.
And this for Rafael, how do you weigh the potential of getting a superstar level player with knowing that you probably have to give up a young player to get that star player, but it will accelerate your championship window, with wanting to keep your young players and see if they get to that level, but you don't know for sure if they're actually going to ever get to the superstar level?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the business of people. They're unpredictable. If we trade for a player, assuming that player will be the same player in our environment that they were in the last one, that's not always the case. And so you have to make the best choices you can. But I would say Plan A has always been to develop our current group and hope that we can be good enough within it. And and on that front, everybody improved, and we're really happy with that level. I'm very happy with that level of improvement.
Coach, with so much young talent on your team, and Mr. Stone just talked about the continuity, you have so much young talent. How do you develop that talent as far as getting them minutes on the court, especially when the rotation is so tight?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. This year, and you saw guys that kind of established themselves even last year going into the first year, and so we're not the typical young team where you just get to play through everything. We added the veterans that we added 2 years ago, and then because we have stockpiled so many great players, it's tougher to just get those minutes without earning them or be in a certain situation. And so where Jalen and Alpi and some guys 4 years ago had a chance to play through everything, I think we're at a different stage as far as that. And so the development will come, and we have full belief in our young guys and the guys that didn't get the opportunity to play this much this year. Things change obviously on a year-to-year basis, and we see the growth behind the scenes if it's not in the live game action. But when they did get a chance to play, I think you've seen Reed and Cam and some of these guys obviously take advantage late in the season when they played heavy minutes. And so can kind of project that based on what they've done this year and where they've grown in certain areas. And obviously it's a long summer and summer league and all those things. We give them a chance to learn, grow, and obviously have plans to use them much more next year.
Ben.
This is a question for both of you. You have bird rights to potentially bring Steven Adams back. What did you all think of his growth throughout this season, and what's the interest in potentially bringing him back for next year and beyond?
I think Steven was the player and person that we thought we were trading for. He's been that, and he's a really important part of the group, and kind of the continuity I talked about and value earlier. He's an important part of that. It's a two-way street, and so he has to want to be here. Every indication we have is he does, and so if he wants to be here and we want him back, and both those things are true, which I know is true from my perspective, then I'm sure we'll work something out.
Yeah, I would say he is who we thought he was going to be. Coming off the injury, you never know, but the way he ramped up and we kind of worked him back, it was a perfect scenario for us to get him his legs back, get him his rhythm back, and get him to the point where he was in the playoffs. Obviously, very cautious about the back-to-backs and making sure he was good at the right time, and he's very in tune with his body and how he feels, and you can see it in live time when the increase of minutes happened, how much more effective he became. And so huge part of what we did this year, and echo his sentiments.
Mike.
This one for Rafael. Fred expressed his hope to return next season. Ime expressed the same kind of thing. How do you expect to handle his contract situation? Is the club option most likely? Do you hope to reach a new longer-term contract? Speak about that situation.
Yeah, I definitely don't speak about contractual situations, so no, I won't. But I will echo that I think Fred's been great, kind of similar to Steven, but with a much longer time frame. He's been the person and the player that we hoped we were getting, and I think I'm very optimistic that he'll be with us for the foreseeable future.
Michael.
Either one of you guys can answer this question, but where do you feel like you are on your trajectory as far as, like, are you on schedule, ahead, where you want to be?
I mean, I think we're on a very solid trajectory. Well, obviously we are, right? 20, 22, 41, 52. So I think that speaks for itself. But just because you've done it in the past doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to do it in the future. So we have to continue to put in the work, which kind of starts on an individual basis, and not just our players, myself, my staff. We have to figure out around the edges, are there things we can do, including doing nothing. It's like we have to do our job. Ime and his staff, they have to do theirs. We all have to come back a little bit better next year. But yeah, to date, I'm very comfortable with our progression.
I would say we've become more consistent, and that was a big goal of ours going into the season. So, yeah, we've taken steps, and obviously that's showed in not only our record, but guys' growth and understanding. We always want more. Selfish, greedy, whatever you want to call it, as coaching staff and as a team. And so, not happy with how it ended, of course, and felt like we should still be playing. But a lot of learning experiences there that'll help us going forward. And yeah, I would say, it's all everybody's goal to be better and come back better. And that was the main message that we went away with, is the things we've done that got us to this point, but we all have to come back better, and this is a huge off season for everybody.
Kim.
This is for both of you guys. I'm starting with you, Coach. When we talked to Fred the other night, he reminded us, he said, when I came in for my free agent visit, we talked about this being a long-term project, right? And so kind of reminding people of that. As you think about that and you feel good about who you have, what is the plan? Like last year, you guys had somebody work with Alpi. You guys have a plan in place, and can you just talk about that piece of the long-term project and building, how you build?
Yeah, I mean, Fred knew what he signed up for at the time, knew what he was coming into, as did I, and so those were the discussions we had. It's going to have some patience, going to have some teaching and growing pains that we're all going to have to go through. But to answer your question, as far as the off season, yeah, that's a huge thing for me and my coaching staff, is spending the time and getting guys to another level. And so we'll do the same thing like we always do, and spending a lot of time in different places with the guys. They'll be here as well, and so we'll try to get some group get-togethers here and have guys working out and obviously taking steps there as well. But yeah, we'll delegate coaches with guys in their cities and their countries or wherever it may be. And this offseason, there's not a ton of international stuff, so we'll get to spend a little bit more time with our guys than we did last year with the national team stuff. And so that's the plan as always, and it doesn't stop for us. It's more of the same, and I think you saw the growth with Alpi in a lot of ways, and look for him to take another step, and we'll have specific coaches with him again. And so that's the plan for all our young guys, spend as much time as possible.
Jonathan.
You guys obviously have extra draft capital in the form of Phoenix picks. Do you view that as an option to potentially upgrade this roster? And also, do you view any players as untouchable, any players currently on the roster, in trying to upgrade the roster?
No, I mean, you can't. I think that would be the untouchable, like the business we're in. Nobody, myself included, nobody's untouchable, And so, I wouldn't want to say that. But everybody on our roster we deeply value, and so I think you have to be careful with your words there. I have to be careful with my words. You can do whatever you want with yours. And in terms of, yeah, like we have those picks. We accumulated them so that we could either draft guys in the future or upgrade our current roster. You know, time will tell what we do with it, or flip them into the future, which we've done a couple of times. And you know, we'll see what makes the most sense at the time.
All right.
For both of you, start with Rafael, when you're watching that playoff series and you're evaluating the players and what you guys have, can you see something that's missing that you need? And watching that series saying, like, I wish I had this. And then for Ime, kind of the same thing as you're coaching, as you're going through rotations and you're getting to the late game situations. Is there something that you wish you had that you didn't have as you're setting the lineups?
Yeah, I mean, for me, no. I think we had, you know, I'm disappointed. You know, I thought, obviously it was a very competitive series. I kind of felt the whole series like we were going to win it, and so I'm disappointed we didn't. But I don't think we didn't because we didn't have enough. I think you know, we didn't get a break. The ball bounced the wrong way. Somebody hit shots. We didn't hit shots. But no, I have faith in our guys that we have plenty.
I would say the key word that we always talk about is consistency, and I think that was the case in the series when we played really good basketball. We had some blowout wins, and we played average or below. We still had close losses, and so the more consistent you can be across the board and avoid some of the situations that even got it to a game 7 would be one. But other than that, I'd say 90% free throw shooters and 50% three-point shooters. That's what we're missing.
Coach, what do you see as the biggest way in which your team grew throughout this year, and what do you think needs to happen for you guys to reach that next level?
Consistency, and you know, that's like I said, we talked about that in depth going into the season. First year was laying the foundation, the effort, and what it takes to be competitive on a nightly basis, and then this year was sacrifice and consistency. We have so much depth that it's not going to be everybody's night every night. Some guys are not going to play for certain games, and then how consistent can we be? And you know, getting with the team yesterday and looking at, you know, our winning and losing streaks, that really stood out. We had 7 3-game losing streaks the prior year, a 5-game losing streak, a lot of red with a few greens, and obviously the 11 winning streak last year. But this year, 1 3-game losing streak, and then the 6th where we struggled with the injuries in the middle, and so that was the only real red on our thing. We didn't lose 2 games in a row until mid-February, and so our goals were to be consistent. I think guys grew in those areas individually, and which obviously showed in our record. And then late game, 3-game losing streak where we sat everybody, that doesn't really count. But I think that was our goal for this year, and the growth you saw across the board. And so we weren't as reliant on veterans to do what they did. I think when Fred did go down, Jalen and Amen grew as facilitators, initiators, and it helped us overall. And so just a consistent growth, and Alpi becoming an all-star, Jalen being leading scorer, and much more consistent across the board. You saw it in every facet for our guys.
This is for both of you guys. There's a decent amount of lineup data that suggests this team has performed better without Jalen Green on the court this season. How much do you incorporate that kind of data into your decision-making process moving forward, be it roster construction, coaching decisions, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a really flawed question. So like we have, there's great data that we have and we use, but I can. Ime would know. One of my favorite things, and I tell them when we have new coaches join, one of my favorite things to tell them is I can make data say whatever I want it to say, and so you know, I think you know, we heavily use it, but we're very careful to try and really parse it out. And I would say that I would say that some of our very best lineups include him, and so that piece by itself, I just think that's just not correct.
Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently, or what would your approach have been differently this season? Just knowing what you know now about how it played out.
About how it played out?
Yeah, how the season played out. Like, what would you have done differently knowing what you know now? Coach changed you.
For me, I think it went pretty appropriately to the way we wanted it to, as far as, like I said, us being consistent and avoiding losing streaks and growing guys at the right pace. And so, the injuries happen and you get these different lineups out there. And obviously, Amen starts to start when Jabari goes down for a while. And so, I wouldn't say many things differently. We have versatility and depth to kind of withstand everything, and we showed that. Like I said, the rough stretch was Fred going down until guys kind of grew into that role. And so I think it just made us better going into the playoffs and down the stretch of the season by some of the things happening unintentionally. Made us a more well-rounded team, not as reliant. And so, we still have some games we felt we gave away, and you win 52 and shut it down toward the end of the season. That's a good problem to have, but with a little more whatever it is, shooting, finishing games, and game situations, I think you can get in the 60 range. And so played out decently to me. Obviously, the end of the season is sour taste that we're going to feel us the rest of the offseason.
Will?
Cam expressed, for both of y'all, from each perspective, Cam expressed a couple times was like his unsureness of what his role was on this team. Did you have any special conversations with him? Do you have to this offseason? What was his role? What does he have to do to change his role?
Yeah, I was a little caught off guard by that as well, because we've had in-depth conversations with Cam, probably more than anybody. And so, I'm pretty clear with what is going to get you on the court and what's going to help you sustain a role. And so, I'll leave it at that as far as that, but plenty of conversations, very clear with what's needed. And, opportunities are there and not always taken advantage of, or, other guys step up and play a little better at times, and you're looking for that consistency there. And so we'll have our exit meetings. We had about 5 or 6 yesterday, and we'll catch the other guys before they leave town and reiterate a lot of points, but ton of potential there. Just the consistency is the main thing, and he knows that.
For the both of you, how important is the theme of continuity in this part of the last 2 years and moving forward?
I mean, I think all things being equal, continuity is great. Sometimes they're not equal, and we made a big addition to our team this year in Steven Adams. We acquired him at the trade deadline last year, but he wasn't playing, and I think we all believe that was a really, really helpful addition. And so I think continuity for continuity's sake isn't what we're trying to achieve. But I do think, especially given we have so many young players that we think are internally improving, I think it's easier for players, it's easier for people to improve and to feel good in situations that they're comfortable in. So continuity helps with that. I think from a coaching perspective, you're not trying to bring somebody up to speed, and obviously there are guys who are just so high IQ that it's all really quick, but there's lots of effective players who it takes time, and so the more continuity you have, the less you have to do some of that. So again, all things being equal, continuity is great, but the goal ultimately is to build a championship team, and if we think that there's a move or a series of moves that make it more likely we will be that, then we would ignore continuity and we'd do those moves.
Yeah, I would say for me anyway, it's we talked about going into year 2 and the goals, and understood that everybody was going to be much better in the second year. And so we kind of hit the ground running as far as that. To this point, only addition of Steven was there, and I think it really was a big part of us jumping out the way we did this year. And so that continuity is good, no doubt. But you've seen teams make a lot of moves, and they feel like they need to get over the hump, and Doncic is added or Butler is added, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we always felt comfortable about what we had here, and that we take this step this year.
For both of you, is there anything that you learned about individual players or just the roster in total by playing the Warriors 7 straight games and just kind of seeing the ways that they attacked you when you had their full attention for 2.5 weeks?
I think we learned a lot about I think it's less what we learned and more it's a learning opportunity. That's how I think about it, which is the grind of a series is different from the regular season, and the intensity Just this is a compliment to Ime. My favorite thing about this team is I felt from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, we were the hardest playing team in basketball. And that's really a testament to him and his staff, and obviously to our players as well. But that'll get you over in the regular season in a way it won't get you over in the playoffs, because everybody plays hard in the playoffs. And so getting our guys to realize that, like, not getting them to realize that, them having the opportunity to feel what that's like, I just think it's a tremendous learning opportunity. And some of it we picked up on the fly. We for sure improved through the course of those 7 games. But I think the bulk of that opportunity is to come, where they get a chance to reflect on it and incorporate it and work through the summer and work through next year. So that's more how I think about it.
And experience for me is a big thing for our young guys going through it for the first time, and how fast can we adapt to it, and next time we're in the playoffs, it's hit the ground running from game one, not take a step back. And I think we kind of found our footing midway through the series, but let go of some opportunities early that I think with the series under your belt, the hard-fought series, you can kind of reflect on and go back on those lessons that you've learned. And so I think our guys will be better for it, no doubt.
In regards to him, man, just being in the gym with him every day, how would you quantify his growth, particularly the offensive end, and what's possible for him on that end? Rafael, what was it like for you, seeing the guy that you were really high on, but into this rising star as well?
Yeah, I mean, he's a extremely hard worker, a grinder like all of our guys are. We never had to complain about that, of guys not putting in the work. And so he views himself as one of the best, if not the best, at what he's trying to be. And there's no real ceiling for him. He's going to continue to ascend like that. But the understanding, he catches on very quickly. And once he does some things, he applies it and kind of puts it in his memory bank. And just his versatility is, he's much different. We use him in much different ways than what he did his whole career, and he's adapted to all those things very well. And so ultimate Swiss Army knife, put him in any position, 1 through 5 he guards, 1 through 5 he has played, and gives us a ton of luxury and versatility to have a guy like that. But yeah, sky's the limit, no ceiling on what he wants to be, and the work he puts in shows that.
This is for both of you guys. What did y'all like about the identity of the team this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the lessons I've learned in my current role is that there's a lot of ways to win in the NBA, and there's different organizations that have been successful doing different things, and one of the best ways to win in the NBA is just getting obscenely lucky and lucking into player X who elevates everyone around him or something like that. But when you're trying to build something, I guess the biggest lesson I've learned is that having a clear direction that fits the organization's personality is really important. And I guess for our organization, that 100% starts with Tillman, and then it's me, and then it's our coach, and then it's our players, and it's not like four people or 15 people or whatever. It's really, there's like, I don't know, 100 of us or 90 of us or something that interact on a daily basis. So taking that back to the team and everything, what I would say is that, like, there's different ways you can win and there's different ways you can lose. You can win a game by making every three-pointer and playing horrific defense and never getting a rebound. You can win a game never making a three-pointer and playing the world's best defense and rebounding. I'm my personality, just me, I'm way more comfortable trying to win in version 2 of that than version 1. And if I personally, I'm okay. If I feel like we left it all on the table, I can lose and be okay. I struggle if I feel like we're soft or not, or getting outworked. Going all the way back to the first time we met and spent time together, for me and Ime, that was something I felt like we kind of bonded over. And it was for sure something I thought was going to end up being important to him, and obviously it is important to him. And so the way this team kind of in year 2 has taken that on is something I really like. And I think we have an identity, and I think it fits Tillman's identity, and it fits mine, and it fits Ime's, and it fits our players. And I think that's a good basis, a good building block from which we can build.
Ditto.
Ditto. You're gonna give me, what do you like the most?
I mean, it is a lot of what he said, and that was from day one, where the competitiveness and effort and all those things were there from day one, and especially for a young team and a team that had lost a lot. And so that's where you start with, and we built it from there. And so I think guys have gotten tougher, and guys have pulled each other up, and all rubbed off on each other as far as that edge and toughness. And you start with that, and then you get to the skills, you get to the IQ, you get to all the other areas where we need to grow and continue to build and learn. But the foundation is set, and we know we give ourselves a really good chance on a nightly basis because of that. And so message was you come in with this effort and this competitiveness, you'll win 3 out of 4 games. That was our goal. We said 75% of your games, 75% is doing that on a nightly basis, and we've done that from day one. And so you saw the competitiveness, scuffles and scratch, all the things from last year, and I think we've only increased that as guys have grown, and will continue to when they get more confident, more physically stronger, and all those things, and bodes well for us going forward. That's laid, and now we got to work on everything else, the skill set, the IQ, and just continue to grow as a group.
Question for both of you. As you look back on this series, what is your assessment of what Jalen did in that series? How do you balance that with what you saw over the course of a long season, and perhaps what are the next steps for him to take as a player to become the player that I'm sure you'd like him to become?
Jalen didn't have the series that he wanted to have, or we didn't, but I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword in terms of trying to evaluate it, because their goal going into the series was to take him out, and that was obvious. And I think they talked about it. I didn't actually listen to what they said afterwards, but people told me what they said, so who knows? I think they talked about it. We are not a team built around any one player offensively, whether it's Jalen or Alperin or Amen or Fred. And so if your goal is to take out one of our players, in theory what should happen is that our other players should just punish it. And Ime frequently talks to the guys about inviting double teams, hit the guy, and you're the sacrificial lamb. And so in some games we punished it, in some games we didn't. In one of the games we ended up with great spacing, and we were able to punish it with him. That's maybe unsustainable, but yeah, I would just say that for all of our guys, we want them to learn and everything else, but it's not, one playoff series doesn't define a player. But also I think in particular with him and that, yeah, if a team's going after you like that, they're going after you like that, and then it's a team game for a reason. And I'm confident that if we want to take any one player out, we can and will on any team in the NBA. And so it's just the repercussions of that impact the winning or losing. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, and more of the same, where he really improved as far as that. It's a compliment to him that teams will go after him to that extent, and you saw it throughout the season. He had some practice at it, and we got better at it. But the main thing is obviously getting the ball to the playmakers behind it and not turning it over. And at times he struggled with that early in the season, and he's really improved there. To Rafael's point, we made them pay at times, and then at times it worked in their favor. Vice versa with them when we took Curry out at times, and Peyton hurts us down the stretch, but a lot of other guys miss wide open shots, and we win those going away. And so the more practice and confidence you have with that, and him just being the decoy at times, like I mentioned. And so there are opportunities that you still will have with that, and the more stops we can get, the more we can play in transition to avoid those is good for him and good for us. But you know, we went through some growing pains, no doubt. I think physically getting stronger to absorb contact on some of his drives when he has the advantage, or finishing at the rim when he does get the driving lane. All those things are things we talked about with him going into the offseason, and able to use him off ball a little bit more. And you got to get a little bit stronger as far as that, because they took him out of some of those actions where they couldn't trap. And so some areas for him to grow, obviously some areas for us to use him a little bit better. But when he does face those, we have enough talent behind it, especially a really good passing big like Alpi, that should punish that every night.
Danielle.
Tari and Jabari both missed some time with injuries this season, but were able to make an impact still. Ime, how do you evaluate their development this season specifically? And Rafael, how likely do you think it is that those two sign extensions?
Yeah, for me, obviously Jabari going down, he came back really good and adapted to the role we brought him back in, which was coming off the bench. And so, you know, he slid him in there, and we're a different team, but better in some ways. Obviously the shooting wasn't there at the starting unit, but his versatility and Amin's made that a seamless transition. I think he was ultimate professional, came back and handled it well, and even showed, you know, how much we missed him while he was gone. You know, he plugged a lot of those gaps when he came back, whether it was playing at the 4, or playing the 3 or the 5 at times, and with the double big lineup, he was really good there. Tari's a little different, obviously. You know, you like the continuity of him playing every night, but you had to be conscious of that and getting him to the end of the season as well. And so there are some things with a young guy that you want to see growth-wise, and I think the fact that he couldn't play on a nightly basis, you know, that's a tough one for him, especially as competitive as he is. And so, you know, you didn't mention Fred as well, you know, being out with injuries and how that hurt us and affected us, but how it helped the team overall. And so those two continue to show growth. You know, I would say overall, they have a lot of things to work on, like everybody, and they know that, and that's what this big offseason is for.
We'll take 3 more. Oh, Rafael.
Sorry, I was going to say, I know you said you wanted me to comment on their free agency status, which is they're extension eligible. We will talk. I'm not going to comment on any of our negotiations, but they're very important parts of what we do, and they're really, really both solid guys. Like I love those guys. I actually like. It's probably already come across, but this team as a whole, like the group of guys that you know, to come in every day and work with is just great. It's just great. And yeah, I thought both Tari and Jabari in particular had really hard years with injuries and just growing pains of various sorts, and they both handled it so well. I'm very appreciative of them and their effort, and very excited about where, you know, the direction I think they're both headed.
This question is for Rafael. You have an opportunity to talk with Tillman a lot later on in the season. Later on in the season and during the playoffs and after the playoffs. I know he leaves the basketball stuff up to you, but what is his vision moving forward going into next season, and how does he currently see the roster constructed?
I mean, I think it's, you know, we're aligned. It's the vision's the one I've laid out to you, which is we're you know, I don't know. I think like no one believed me, but I think like 4 years ago I was like, we're gonna be really young, and I think I used words like excite. I never used words like winning. Like you know, we knew what we were in for, and he knew what he was in for, and you know, and we're not there. Like the goal is to build a championship team, and we clearly we're not a championship team this year, so we're all still in it. But he's completely bought in. He you know, I'll just speak on his behalf. Like I know this is his favorite team he's ever had. Just again, kind of a lot of it is what I just said, which is he also has an opportunity to be around our guys day in and day out, and they're good guys, and I think he appreciates them not just for the players they are, but for the people they are, and yeah, he's just very bought in on this group and seeing and thinking that this group can get us to where we want to go.
Kim.
You're right. You did say excitement. We tried to get you to give us a number, and you wouldn't. So I remember that. Ime, you've been around basketball a long time. What do you do in terms of evaluating yourself and your staff? Is that process to say, where are we, what can we work on? What's that process for you?
Yeah, I mean, before the season starts, we do a full season recap of obviously our coaches retreat. We get together and look at the previous season and look at areas of growth, improvement across the board. We check the numbers and you see how we use guys, how we develop guys. Everybody has a different role, obviously, with the coaching staff, but reflecting on myself and looking at areas of growth, it's always a big thing, and that obviously starts much before we get together for a coaches retreat. And so, yeah, it's always ways to improve, and that's what that was a message to the team yesterday and after the game was, I have to come back better. The staff does as well, and all of you guys as well. And so it's not just physically, mentally, all those things. Yeah, it's overall growth. It's not pointing any fingers that we missed shots. It's did we get the right shots? Did we use you guys the right way? And target areas to be better at or be number one in. And we hit some of those this year. We've been really good at some, but we can always be a lot better. And so different ways to grow and learn and kind of lean back on experiences. To your point, I've been seeing a lot of things and been around for a long time, and anything we can implement to make our team better and things run more smoothly.
Last question, Jonathan.
You mentioned not being at a championship level. What do you believe is what is the first step you all will take to get to that level? What more do you feel like you all need to get there?
We're going to work hard over the summer, and everybody's going to be better. Then we'll see where we're at. Like that's the one thing I know will happen. Yeah, the rest we'll see, but I know that will happen. And we have the vast bulk of our rotational minutes are being played by players that I believe in my soul will be way better next year than they were this year, because that's the point of their career that they're at. So I think we'll see what that brings.